want to thank all the panelists. We have a global set of data center operators, and a lot of you focus on hyperscaler, AI, cloud, but also enterprise, retail, colo to various extents. And I guess maybe starting with you at the end, Rangu, just to kind of start things off, what are you noticing as we look into 2026 around shifts in demand signals? What are the changes you're seeing in kind of customer behavior among CSPs, hyperscalers, and all the different segments?
Sure, thanks, John. As you know, and for the audience here, we're a Singapore headquartered data center company focused primarily in Asia in 7 markets. And from a big shift that we've seen, John, is how certain locations in Asia have become AI locations for global deployment for hyperscalers. I think that's a big shift. In the past, you had cloud, which was very local, serving the local markets from customers and other end use cases. But in AI, particularly from Gen AI learning models and distributed learning models, we are seeing locations like Melbourne, Mumbai, Johor, now even in Japan, which are becoming a very attractive sites for global deployment. From a cost economics perspective, but also availability of resources to be able to serve this global, particularly US hyperscalers. And I think that's a big shift. And the scale of those requirements, if not in gigawatts, we are seeing pretty large 3-number mega million, hundreds of megawatts at a time. I think that's a big shift just in the last 6 to 9 months. So these are kind of 2 trends that we are seeing that are changing the dynamics of what we're doing in Asia.
And then as you look at Asia, just sticking with you for a moment, you know, one often hears about Japan, Malaysia, Australia, India being kind of the initial hubs. Anything that's emerging, whether it's Thailand or Indonesia, but what are you seeing from, you know, based on your customer discussions as to where the next hubs may emerge?
We've seen Jakarta become very big. I think just if you look at us, 6 months ago, our largest capacity in Jakarta was 22 megawatt. And in 6 months, we have added 360 megawatts just in Jakarta. So, you know, from like for 15x in 6 months. And that has exploded the demand. And I think we are seeing campuses being taken on, full campuses at a time. So Jakarta has become a pretty large scale deployment for the hyperscalers. Other markets, not yet, but I think after Mumbai, after India, Japan, Australia, Johor, now I think Jakarta has become significantly bigger.
Yeah. Andy.
Same question?
Similar question. Maybe we'll let Randy talk about Asia. You can focus on kind of US and Europe and kind of what you're seeing around broader demand signals.
So I think as we left 2025 and came into 2026, some themes have continued that were less pervasive at the beginning of this year or a year ago. I'd say a widening of the customer base and diversity. You look at our top signings over several quarters, I think we had 6 different top customer signings along the way, so which is great. So more customers looking for capacity. I feel like we finally started to turn the corner where the folks, especially in the US, realized the available sites have been exhausted and they have to lengthen the 1 year out from delivery so the 27 varietals and the 28s are becoming much more in fashion to be sought after versus a year ago or certainly 2 years ago. There's much more myopic look on, I need it yesterday, and if it's not delivered yesterday, it's irrelevant, which I think is a good thing for the industry, more forward planning. To echo what Rangu just shared, I think the global involvement is simmering more than it has historically or more in recent AI days. That I don't think that's taken away from the incredible demand in the United States. It just is complementing it. And we exited the quarter with some strength in Europe, some great activities in Asia. I think our Latin American business is moving in a great direction. So I think AI is becoming a much more global affair than it was in the last several months.
And then maybe to throw in an additional topic, is cloud still growing at the same pace linearly? Is it always obvious to you whether it's cloud, AI, social networking? Obviously, it depends on the customer, but how do you see the different types of technology demand?
I mean, we're still seeing a tremendous amount of growth, expansion of existing availability zones, launching new availability zones, new markets turning into availability zones for the cloud. It's called $500 billion business growing, call it 25, 30%. It's gonna be $1 trillion before we know it. So it's not, all our demand is not all about the AI use cases. And I think you're starting to see the blurring of the lines here as we call it more private data sets and corporate enterprise consumption of AI. And our enterprise business, we ended the third quarter with, I think, almost 18% or 19% was an AI-related use case. They're not putting that on an island that's not near where the private cloud is or where the connectivity is. I mean, I think called the move from the ChatGPT, the called search replacement to real called business use cases are just starting to take off.
Tag, welcome. Primarily US, so kind of what's your view of things?
Yeah, we think from a demand cycle, people often talk about the availability zones and whether or not that some of them are saturated and where they're going to go next. I get the question a lot about, are there tier 1 markets or are there tier 2 markets? And it's kind of becoming obvious in our pipeline that they are just tier 1s and tier 1s, depending on what product they're going to put in that market. So if you're going to go into a traditional availability zone, they're likely going to deploy cloud services, and that is a tier 1 market for cloud services. It's got proximity, it's right where it needs to be, the eyeballs are nearby. If you're going to go to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is not normally a tier 1 market, unless you're putting training and inferencing and private AI clusters, then it is a tier 1 market for that product. And so all of a sudden, you've got this distinction from a demand side that it's tier 1 if it has power, land, supply chain, and labor, and it doesn't matter what product is going there, it just depends on what the flavor is for that particular hyperscaler.
Randy, how are your vocal cords doing?
I'm good. I'm Randy for this session, Jan. So I guess kind of same question, picking up on what the three folks have said. I agree with everything. So let's start with, obviously, demand continues to grow. You asked about cloud. I'm with Andy. I think they're starting to get to be a blur, right? There are certain tier 1 markets, I'm going to pick up on tags, 1A, 1B markets, that the answer is yes. It's cloud, it's AI, and it's the cloud offering of AI to the enterprises that we're seeing. But I think, unlike maybe cloud, it's a lot less distinct, it's a lot less clear. It started here in the US, then it went to Europe, and it was X years behind, and then it went to Asia. Not the case that we're seeing this time. The US is hyper, right, and the training is largely based here and so on. Inference is big. Agentic is big, right? These are massive deployments. People keep thinking of these as small. That's not what they are. These are actually very large deployments. And the technology allows you to go betwixt and between. And keep in mind, many of these enterprise licenses are purchased for a reason so that you can import your data and create your own model, training on your own data. So there's a whole blurring of what's happened. Like Rangu said, we are seeing demand in Asia, quite remarkable. I'm going to pick up on what Andy said. If we'd have been sitting here 6 months ago, I would have said, Europe, we got it, so many challenges, it's not quite coming at the same pacing. 6 months later, we're starting to see an awakening in Europe. Not necessarily training in its purest sense, but we're seeing an awakening in Europe as well. Yes, the demand larger in the US, but material demand on a global scale.
And maybe sticking with you, how much of that would be neocloud versus traditional CSPs? Andy mentioned that there's been a broadening of demand.
Yeah,
Europe specifically, how do you kind of see the growth? Is it equally as distributed as I outlined, or is it traditional?
No, I had the phenomena Andy had. Every quarter there was a new largest customer, and that hasn't been in the cloud world. That wasn't historically true, at least for us. And some of the other guys are a little bit, established differently. But if I look back over the last 4 quarters, I had 4 different largest customers cycle through that, which is good for the industry, not the data center industry, I mean the industry writ large, right? There's a reason why, we talked about it in the previous session, there's a reason why this industry, when you look at the investments that the neoclouds, but more importantly, possibly the CSPs, the hyperscalers are making, there's a reason why this industry is mentioned in the same breath as GDP right now. And that's a fascinating thing. And I think the fact that at least 2 or 3 of us, I saw Tag nodding his head the same phenomena, are having these very large scale deals happen with different members of this ecosystem is why you're seeing this happen on a certainly a local scale, but I'm also seeing it now start to emerge on a broader global scale.
Doug, what are you seeing?
So we're about 40% US, about 30% Asia, 30% Europe. Each part of the globe's different. Obviously in the US, we're seeing incredible absorption offtake. We spent over $1 billion in land acquisitions last year. We're 96%, 97% occupied, and have pre-sold almost every piece of land we have before we even have the building coming out of the dirt. To your point, 5 largest deals in a row. 5 started with $1 billion. I remember when the first deal was $1 billion, and now we're well into the several billions of dollars. The demand is like nothing I've seen. There's a lot of talk about AI bubbles and what's happening in the AI industry. I can tell you, on the picks and shovel side of the business, there is demand backing up all the requirements, and we're writing 15-year contracts with AAA credit-rated entities. So on the picks and shovels, on the data center side of the business, the difference between past bubbles and what they're predicting now is that we're backed by demand. And so it's significantly different, and we're seeing demand across the globe. We're seeing retail in Asia and hyperscale in India. Tremendous amount of hyperscale action. We're looking at selling 500 megawatt campuses within India. Europe is constrained by inventory. Unfortunately, the flap D markets, there's no power available. And so anything we have in flap D is sold. And so now we're moving to Madrid and Vienna and some of what were considered tier 2 markets, and starting to fill out those markets. So this will be my next month is 25 years for me since I helped start the company called Raging Wire and sold that to NTT. In that 25 years, I've never seen demand like it is right now. It's unprecedented.
So delivery is kind of an increasing challenge. It's a good problem to have. What are you noticing as we start into 2026 that you weren't seeing in 2025 around whether it's equipment, capital, labor, political headwinds? Very, very open-ended. But why don't we just start with Rangu in terms of how are the challenges maybe a little bit different than what you saw a year ago?
I think partly all of the above, except the political issues are less in Asia. I think there's a lot of policy-level support in almost every Asian country when it comes to AI and building out infrastructure. Most countries don't want to be in a miss-out situation. So I think from other aspects of delivery, I think long lead equipment continue to be challenging. I think the scale at which we're winning business and the industry is growing, I think it's becoming a very important issue. On the good side, we are fortunately on that side of the world where most of the Western manufacturing companies have plants in Asia, manufacturing plants. And I think that has helped us source the same products at a much faster time delivery as well as a lower cost, not have to worry about tariffs and those kind of things. So overall, we have been able to take advantage of having local manufacturing by the large global multinational equipment companies. So that's worked out well for us. And having planned that a little bit and being able to work with the vendors have been to our advantage. GCs are challenging many of these markets. I think getting contractors is not easy. There's not enough labor pool. Many of these markets, you can't cross state boundaries to move labor around. We have to deal with those issues. I think, again, planning and having deep relationships with the GC community is quite important in markets like Japan and other places, Korea. I think it's not easy to find general contractors if you're new to the market. So putting all this together, if you look at it, I think what the market is looking for, whether it's a vendor, GC, subcontractors, power utility companies are, they want to partner or bring companies in which have a track record of execution so that they don't want companies coming in asking for power, get power quota, and then not execute. I think that's the last thing utilities want to see happen. So those are the kind of things. Same thing with equipment vendors. They want to have companies who have executed through a track record, have an execution track record. So they know if they place an order, they're going to make it happen and they're going to pay the bills on time and the next project is coming. So if you put all that together, I think we are seeing execution track record as the number one thing that everybody's looking for when it comes to partnering or giving you support to get ahead of the queue.
Yeah, I'd pick up on that sort of execution capability, John. I would say we got, what, 5 of us sitting up here who are all multi-gigawatt companies with decade plus of experiences, with great relationship with global investment grade customers. And so that's interesting. There's a whole bunch of people that not the track record, not the experience, and maybe not the same credibility with that customer base. I actually think 26 may show us some, and capital is not unlimited. Examples are going to enter the marketplace. Well, yes, when you have 25 years and 25 years and 25 years and 20 years, et cetera, and a proven track record and the right customers, and you support cloud and you support AI and you support the enterprise and the ecosystem. But there's some things that aren't that right now. And so I think this interesting thing in 26 is going to be when you don't have that execution track record and you don't necessarily have the right contracting structure, details matter, that capital is not unlimited, and the amount of capital required is breathtaking. So I think there's going to be some interesting things, picking up on the themes everybody said, that are going to open up some new things as we go into 26.
So when there's global headlines around, some of these LLMs burning a lot of cash, and even their own financials is a little bit of a mystery. I think I want to ask Andy and Tag initially, how does that affect your sales engine and how you choose to kind of focus your efforts? And then what sorts of, I guess at the project level, financing ramifications does that have?
I mean, what's playing out here is the technology community is evolving in terms of capital intensity. They used to be incredibly capital light businesses called Sling Software, and now they're moving further and further into the capital intensity business to the point where there's announcements of buying power plants and things like that. To me, it's a natural evolution that I think I've been our customers for the longest time. I know they are trillion-dollar companies with vast balance sheets and great credit ratings, but is investing in the land, the infrastructure, the best use of their capital when they could be funneling it towards called incredible technological innovation, from robotics to cloud computing to AI to sending rockets to the moon or Mars. So, and we're seeing that play out at the trillion-dollar company lens. We're seeing it played out at the new entrants called filling a vacuum, and that is definitely a piece of it where we have value prop to our customers. I think our value prop is accentuating even beyond the capital personally, because all this demand of diversity and robustness is happening when it is just getting harder and harder and harder to deliver. And it's happening with utilities raising the bars on who they'll work with and the letters of credits and deposits they require. It's happening where NIMBYism is coming to our space real fast in the United States. It used to always be harder to build outside the US, and that's kind of coming full circle given what's playing out in the US. And it's a shoehorn issue on both sides of the aisle when a tremendous amount of misperception around the space is happening around our asset class, and it's slowing development, slowing new infrastructure, saying, no, I don't want that data center near my town. And I think that makes our value to our customers even bigger, because we didn't just enter the space yesterday when AI became a thing. We've been doing this forever. We've been good contributors to our communities. We've been doing it the right way. We've been doing it in not just powering the technology, but doing it in a sustainable framework. So I think our value prop has been accruing beyond just the capital intensity we had.
When I think about the the execution that we hear, the track record that the companies on stage here have, there's probably going to be, I don't know, a shakeup in the next 18 to 24 months for companies that have overextended themselves, that are too far up the risk curve, that aren't going to quite be able to deliver. I think there'll be a shakeup there. As it relates to the question specifically around delivery, lots of people kind of on the outside looking in, they'll say, hey, Andy, getting energy is the biggest problem. And you kind of nod, yeah, you've heard that headline, good for you, that sounds great. But what they're missing is it's not just energy, it's the complexity of all the other components of it. Once you get that ESA signed and you spend $300 million on a letter of credit and you put that in place, you have a minimum demand charge and you sign up to pay for electricity and electrons whether you use them or not, then you need to go solve supply chain. Then you have to go solve the labor issue. Then you have to go solve the community engagement and the NIMBYism that you see. And so congratulations, you solved energy. And now there are 4 other massive mountains behind that you have to go and climb before you can get a project off the ground. When we think about whether or not, I hear from my family, my friends at the barbecue, people are like, oh, you're in the data center industry. How's that? And there's definitely a little edge of like, how's that? Can you tell me about my power costs next year? Did you use too much water? Here's a very interesting thing to think about. Every community, every single community that QTS is in, and I'd argue the same for my colleagues, but I'll just use QTS. Every community we're in, they think we're the greatest partner they've ever had. We're great partners to them. We've provided the jobs. We've gotten their revenue. We participate in their volunteer events. We do their highway cleanups, like all the things you want from a partner. They think we're the greatest partner they've ever had. All the communities that we're trying to get into, that is believing the national narrative, you would think I was the devil, right? That is the difference in what's happening in the industry. The proof is in the pudding. Where we execute well as good partners, they have parades for us. In Camus, the UK, no lie, they brought out a brass band when I showed up on stage. It was super cool. And I told my team, just have that follow me around everywhere. That would be really fun. But the communities that we're trying to get into, and I'll end here and pass to my colleagues, I sat down with a farmer in Madison, Wisconsin. And he said, Tag, I don't understand why you need to be here. Why does a data center have to be in our community? I put all my stuff in the cloud. There was no humor in his voice at all. He was dead serious. And I was like, well, we got a lot of education to do here in this conversation. So we're all battling this misinformation. We stand on the foundation that we're doing the right things in these communities. And I think going a little bit on the offensive is part of the plan for at least a number of us, because the opposition is definitely on the offensive.
I agree with you completely. I think this is an industry we haven't done as good as we could do. We all built them sustainably. We all contributed to our communities. I mean, it was like, take care of your people, take care of the planet, take care of, your customers, and take care of the environment that's around you. We've done that for years and years. We haven't done a great job of showing how we can help a community, the tax base we drive, the infrastructure that get built, and fire and policing and all the schools that come out.
And Randy, lots of us are finance guys and we think about the numbers, and when we stand in front of communities, I don't say things like, we're going to contribute $20 million in tax revenue to your community. I say, we're going to hire 17 elementary school teachers.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that? Yeah, we love teachers. Then you love data centers.
That's right. So I think as an industry, we're gonna jump off. I mean, we have been pivoting and working together as one. This is if there's a siren call I can make, it's like we really got to do this. It's an industry that does more good than it does harm if we do it right. I think we don't collectively do a good enough job of telling people we're doing right, though. I think that's part of the problem. I mean, in Europe, we power hundreds of homes with our leftover heat.
Right.
We've built soccer fields, we've built playgrounds all across the globe, because when we go into a community, the first thing that happens is people have their hand out and they ask us to do things for the community. And we always do it. And we're good neighbors. We build fencing, we keep the noise down, we do all these things. But I think we collectively, to your point, have gotten a bit of a bad rap on this. And I agree with you. I think we need to go advertise a little bit more what we're doing. But back to the original question on supply chain, et cetera. I never in my 25 years of doing this ever believed that my strongest USP, my strongest statement when I talk to a customer would be, I've never paid a dime of liquidated damages, I've never paid a penalty, I've never been charged for delivering late. And every customer conversation, that's the conversation I have now, because what's happened is a lot of these property owners and these small development companies have started to bring projects out of the ground and they're all delivering late because they don't have the supply chain, they don't have the efficiencies, they don't have it's a very complex business we're in, and every single stage has gating issues. There isn't one part. I didn't think that in my career, again, I'd see a shortage of plumbers or electricians. We're doing a lot of centrally built infrastructure now and shipping it, containerized equipment to our facilities because of that. It's the complexities make this not for the faint of heart, and delivery is a big issue still.
5 minutes left because we're going to try to get back on time and at the bottom of the hour. And it sounds like you're all doing God's work, so congratulations. I want to talk about.
That's quite what we said,
There's going to be some roadkill I'm sensing from some of you in 2026 around business models that are challenged and can't deliver and whatnot. So does that create opportunities? Obviously, experienced developers are going to win out from a share gain standpoint, but these projects and or businesses that remain challenged, does that represent M&A fodder for you in any way to help you get into new markets and do it right? Or do you just kind of follow your own game plan and let some of that roadkill just kind of pass you by?
I mean, I'll be brief. From our perspective, we build the value brick by brick. We probably won't go into the M&A space. Buying someone else's problems and headaches sounds worse than solving our own problems and headaches, so we probably won't do that. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
I mean, I think there's going to be some shakeout at call it the land level. People are figuring out that tying up the dirt, the next step, like Tag mentioned, is a lot harder, and the price to entry. I think it's tough to bet against this industry and think there's going to just be all this distress or anything like that, because the demand is so robust and diverse, and the supply is so tight.
Yeah.
I do think you're going to, and going to Randy's point, different capital backers are running out of money. So you're going to see more platforms thinking about their next steps, and you've seen some transactions recently in the space. So I think you're going to start seeing that come more into fruition in 26, 27.
So my last question in the 2.5 minutes we have left is M&A. You've seen transactions with Aligned and with Digital Bridge. What are you looking for in 2026 that you think might happen either amongst your customers or amongst your peer group?
I think you were going to say something first.
Yeah.
Sure. We have made acquisitions historically, and these have been small single assets which either fit market entry strategy or being able to fill a hole. What we anticipate in the next 18 months or so, there'll be a lot of platforms which will get subscale. They won't be able to execute, either lack of capital or not be able to execute to the promise they would have made to customers or the investors. So we believe there's opportunities for consolidation, for growth consolidation, what I would call, and we would be quite careful about it. I mean, it'll be with a lot of care and see if there's a right fit, but definitely we'll see opportunities coming in the market.
Yeah.
From our perspective, we are focused only in Asia. That's not going to change.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time. I think a lot of us are also focused around acquisition of talent, retention of talent. Can you get the right people on board to build the things you're building? When I took over my role less than a year ago, one of the goals of mine was to roll out a program at QTS, which I think might be first in the industry, which we rolled out last week at our kickoff, where we have now every single employee at QTS is an equity owner. And we rolled it out from the very top all the way down to the bottom, that every employee, we are absolutely as an industry trying to not only create new opportunities for new workforce members to come in, but also figure out ways to retain and attract them. And having a equity for all, that every single solitary person from the level 1 technician to the CEO has ownership in the company, is a huge step for us and something that we've just rolled out. and the team's pretty proud of. So as we think about that human factor of this industry, it's a huge part of it.
Randy, you get the last word.
I think your question was around M&A and what we're going to do. We're going to focus on our organic opportunities. I think we're not going to talk about them. We won't be issuing press releases about what we're going to do. I think we're just going to shut the heck up, deliver on time, deliver with quality, and operate at this new super scale. But the organic opportunities are more than enough to keep us busy. And I'm blessed with a financial backer like a couple of these folks that can get us from here to there.
Fantastic. We covered a lot of topics in a short amount of time. Appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.